Austin Seibert has some of the most quick hips that I've seen out of an NFL kicker. However, the way that he stands when he's in his ready position, it does hurt him a little bit more than your average NFL kicker. What I mean by that is check out his alignment whenever he's set. He points a lot of his body almost at the holder itself. Ideally, you want to point everything more towards the plant spot so that you can get your hips through it a lot easier versus having to torque your body to get through the ball. At the same time, since he is so explosive, he can really get away with that because he's just so fast. So guys, I've loved doing these and I'm going to continue doing them a lot more. But if you could do me a huge favor and click the link in my bio and just click any link that looks good to you guys. Evan Mcpherson has a lot of tendencies just like Justin Tucker. There are a couple things that I would say he could do a little bit better, but overall, he's a very strong kicker. The biggest one to me that sticks out is when he lands, a lot of his energy has been sunken into the ground. So after he kicks, he almost immediately goes left. Not a huge deal, but in terms of momentum, it's really nice to make sure you're finishing forward more than to the side. I had a very similar problem whenever I was kicking in college, and that's why the ball curves often. Granted, he has a super strong leg to make up for it, but NFL scouts definitely want to see a straight ball flight after the ball is kicked. Nonetheless, a very talented kicker, and I can't wait to see him on Sundays. Nick Folk has been in the league for quite some time now, but he has a couple tendencies that I really like and a couple things that I don't like so much. The one that he does very consistently and that I really do like is that he approaches his plant line really aggressively. He doesn't go back toward the ball and then back to his plant spot. He stays very disciplined in his approach. If there's one thing I wish he could work on, is just getting his right hip through the ball just a little bit more, because if he ever does miss, he misses right. Not a big deal, but something to just be mindful of moving forward. But he's still in the NFL. He's an amazing kicker nonetheless. Badgley has a couple good things that he does, but what I've noticed that he does a little bit more than other kickers is he wraps his foot around the outside panel a smidge, and that's why it's curving a pretty good amount on most of his kicks. He also has a somewhat difficult time getting his hip through on a couple field goals. Not all of them, but a few. This limits power, and it really is difficult to get all of your weight on the football. So if he could be a little bit more square at contact, he'll be able to get a little bit more weight on the Quinn Nordin has a cannon for a leg. Honestly, he has one of the more explosive legs I've seen ever. But for his technique, he does two things really well. The first is he is very disciplined, just like Wil Lutz, on keeping his eyes back on the ball so he can watch his foot make contact. The second is his toe stays pointed before, during, and after contact so he can get as smooth of a contact surface as possible. And then as an added bonus, he swings his leg straight up as opposed to jabbing it or punching it out. That's a really good reason as to why the ball takes off so quickly and goes a lot higher, a lot faster. He will need to watch his ball flight, as most of these kicks curve a little bit more than pros do, so that might be something to watch out for, but he definitely has the leg for the NFL. Rodrigo Blankenship, or Hot Rod as everyone calls him, is super good because of a few different things. The first and foremost is every single kick that he has is the exact same technique-wise. No matter if he's kicking a 55-yard field goal like he is right here, or an extra point, he's always making sure that his technique is spot on. He doesn't change a dang thing. Granted, he has a really strong leg, but he keeps his body upright the whole time. He does not crunch at all, and that really lets his body stay relaxed throughout the kick. But everything from his alignment, his steps, his pre-kick routine, he does the exact same thing every single time, so that will absolutely help him in game winner situations and just regular everyday kicks. He's got a huge future, and I'm excited to see it. Dan Bailey's had a really consistent career. He's had a couple bumps in the road recently, but I think technically he is a very smooth kicker with just a couple things that I would say would be improved a little bit. Primarily, in my personal opinion, the biggest thing is he sweeps across after he makes contact. It's just really hard to get all of your weight downfield and towards your target when everything is going left, essentially. But he's still really good. It's just, I would say, honestly, that one of the biggest reasons as to why he's had some struggles is he's had some injuries in the past few years, and it's just really hard to get back at 100% when you're constantly being injured. The two things that are distinctive to Brett Maher are his tempo and his disciplined routine. I like the way he visualizes his target where he wants the ball to go, centers himself, and then gets after it. Tempo is very important when you're kicking field goals, as every single kick should be the exact same, but whenever you start to back up a little bit, people start to try to overcompensate and really try to overkill the kick. He does a great job of just keeping composure and keeping everything nice and smooth, letting his leg do the work for him, and just trusting his swing. One bonus thing that I like is after he kicks the ball, he doesn't try to look up at it to see where it's going. He keeps his eyes down a little bit longer so that he can keep his body in check, and then the ball just takes off for him. Super explosive leg. He just needs to watch his curve on the kicks. That's all. Wil Lutz is someone that I looked up to when I was playing in college, and we actually kicked at a couple kicking camps together. I like 3 things that he does. The first thing is that he uses his arm on the kick, so it helps his leg speed a little bit. He utilizes a quick and explosive leg drive, and he keeps his eyes back at contact. Check this out. After the ball has left his foot, he is still looking at the contact spot. That is a great way to make sure your hips are in the right position. Like and follow for me for more, guys. Patterson is solid. Specifically on this kick, what he does here is he leads his hip back a smidge and he puts all of his weight left. He's not a bad kicker by any means, but these are some things that could be cleaned up a little bit. So essentially at contact, just staying a little bit more square and getting forward as opposed to across the ball. Like for more. Brian Johnson has a very explosive kick and the ball jumps off his foot. If I did have one critique for him, it would be to keep his chest tall so he can let his leg go up a little bit more. When his chest comes down, it does limit a couple other things as well as leg drive and body momentum. But he is able to make up with the range of motion with his hip movement. Lastly, I like the way that his heel touches the ground into his drive step so he can activate his full glute and hips. A lot of guys will be on their toes when they come into their drive step, and it limits their hip movement. Blair Walsh is a perfect example that you don't need to squat 700 pounds to be a good kicker. Leg speed and contact is everything when you're kicking a football, and he's really good about making sure he connects with the sweet spot of the football and drives down towards his target every time. As a kicker, it can be challenging to bounce back from a tough game, but I know he'll be just fine. Carlson does a fantastic job of getting all of his momentum forward through the ball. As you can see, after he makes contact, he's very, very conscious and mindful about going upfield as opposed to going sideways. This absolutely helps with ball flight and overall explosiveness on the kicks. Not to mention he's very tall and more or less the Super Mario version of his brother Anders. Lastly, he does a fantastic job of approaching his plant line as opposed to going to the ball, then having to curve back into the plant spot. Those are all super efficient ways to help him out. Fun fact, Dustin Hopkins, or D-Hop, used to play at a school 5 minutes from my old house. As far as his form goes, he is definitely a non-traditional kicker in the way that he kicks. I can't say that he's a super efficient kicker, but he has a damn good leg. If I could give him a critique, it would be to stay a little bit taller at contact, but nonetheless, he is a pro in the NFL, so I can't really say much on that. But his contact and leg speed are what make him so elite. Cameron Dicker, no question, has an NFL leg. The only thing is his consistency. NFL teams typically want to see you up in the 80% range coming out of college in order to make a really confident decision with you. The biggest thing for him is what most college kickers like myself dealt with, is just getting your transferred weight through the ball. He has a great leg from 60 and in, but the only thing is, since you leave your weight back, you tend to miss right or left a little bit more than your NFL kickers because they're really conscious about where their hips are pointing at contact. When you mix that with a small crunch down, you tend to not get as much range of motion on the ball as possible. Think Jason Myers or Joey Slye, they really get their leg up there, and it directly translates to your body position at contact. Still a really, really good kicker. If there is one thing though, just to be conscious about transferring your weight through the ball a little bit more than leaving your hip back. Jimmy Camacho is an NFL free agent with some experience in the CFL. He's been training with Nick Novak out of California, and he has done some pretty cool things as far as his progression goes. There are 3 things that stick out to me as to what makes him so powerful and have such a quick, explosive leg. I like how he touches his heel to the ground on his drive step so he can activate his glute. His contact point is spot on every single time, and then at contact, his hips are pointing exactly where he wants the ball to go. I have 3 things that I really like about Cade York. The first is that he does a great job of getting away from the football and not being so up and down. He has a little bit of leverage on his body so he can get it more through the football. The second is he is really conscious about making sure his hips are lined up with the target and making sure they're pointing where he wants the ball to go. That helps him with accuracy and getting a little bit more power on the football. But one of the biggest reasons as to why the ball explodes off his foot is because he hits the ball just below dead center, and that just pops. He has really good foot-to-ball contact, and you can see it in his ball flight. The only thing I'm not a total fan of is how he jumps off his right foot into his drive step going into the plant foot. It causes him to crash down a little bit, but still nonetheless, really good kicker. Andre Szmyt has a lot of tendencies just like Dan Bailey. They both do a really good job of utilizing their hips on the kick and not leaving them back or over-correcting themselves. They really transfer their weight naturally through the ball, which really helps them out as well. His contact is really spot on as well. That's why he gets such great distance and slow rotation on the football. Overall, my favorite thing that he does is he naturally scoops his hips through and gets his weight forward through the ball, as opposed to Steven Hauschka, who swipes way across it. Giorgio Tavecchio has always had a smooth like butter swing. He is one of the most pure ball strikers that is needing to get picked up by an NFL team, no question. I love his skip through. He's very efficient about getting everything through the ball and making sure that he gets all of his weight behind it. He is a true student of the game, and he's always trying to improve himself, and that really is what it takes to become a pro. On top of his skip through, he does a really, really good job of staying tall throughout the entire kick, and he doesn't crunch down or anything like that. He lets his leg get full range of motion throughout the swing, and it allows him to crush this 54-yarder. Joey Slye is an absolute unit. The fact that he has so much power built up in his frame, and yet he keeps his body so liquid smooth, it's incredible. You often find kickers with really big legs, they tend to crunch over often, but he is fantastic about keeping his body tall throughout the entire kick. I honestly think he does it better than any kicker. When you match that with his leg speed, foot-to-ball contact, and just absolute hip strength, he crushes it.
Through. This will be from 43 yards away. And the kick is through. This will be from 43 yards away. And the kick is through. This will be from 43 yards away. And the kick.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching the video. Please subscribe to the channel. It really helps me grow. But if you're not already, please follow the Discord, chat, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter links below in the bio. Again, thank you so much for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.